She was small, trembling, alone on a war-torn world that had forgotten her. Everyone else passed her by, seeing only an alien child too broken to matter. But when I saw those eyes, wide, scared, searching, I didn't see a species. I saw a little girl who just wanted to be held. When she looked up at me and whispered, "Will you be my dad?" Something inside me broke, and I knew I'd never leave her behind.
Not now. Not ever.
The war had ended 3 weeks ago, but its aftermath still clung to the air like soot that wouldn't wash off no matter how much you scrubbed. Buildings were rubble, fields were scorched black, and the sky still smelled faintly of plasma. I wasn't supposed to be here, not officially, just another ex-soldier in an abandoned zone, walking streets where nothing good survived. But when you've seen too much and sleep becomes your enemy, sometimes the only comfort is motion, even if your boots are caked with ash. I told myself I was just surveying for salvage, leftover gear, old power cores, anything to flip for credits. That lie held up fine until I turned the corner of a broken marketplace and saw her. A tiny figure crouched under what used to be a food stall, her back pressed to a metal support beam, arms wrapped around thin knees, skin a pale, dusky violet like faded twilight. I paused, partly out of instinct, partly out of something else I didn't want to name.
She didn't move.
Just stared at me with eyes too big for her gaunt face, glassy, quiet, hollow eyes.
Not crying. Not afraid.
Just watching like she was already gone inside. I scanned the rubble around her. No other movement, no adult figure nearby, no signs of an ambush.
She was alone.
I took a cautious step forward, raising my hands, showing her I wasn't armed, at least not in my hands, and knelt a few meters away. She blinked once, slow, deliberate.
That was all.
Her clothes, if they could still be called that, were nothing more than rags frayed and dirt-stained, barely clinging to her thin frame. One of her feet was wrapped in what looked like insulation tape, the other bare and cut. She hadn't eaten properly in days, maybe longer. I opened my pack and pulled out a ration bar, broke it in half, and set the smaller piece on the cracked ground between us.
I waited. The wind kicked up ash, but she didn't move.
Then, without shifting her body, she extended one thin arm and took the food. She didn't devour it, just held it for a second, sniffed it, then nibbled like she didn't trust it not to disappear. I didn't say anything, I just sat, letting silence do the talking. After a few minutes, I asked softly, "What's your name?" She flinched, almost imperceptibly, then looked at me again. There was no recognition of the words, no understanding. Of course, she didn't speak Terran Standard. I tried again, this time in rudimentary Veshtari, the local dialect of this region.
Name. You. Her eyes widened, just a flicker, but enough. Her lips parted, cracked and dry. She hesitated, then whispered something so soft I almost missed it. Saara. I nodded slowly. Saara. I'm David. She didn't repeat it. Just stared. That was fine. She knew I wasn't a threat now. That was the start. I could have walked away then. I told myself I should. This wasn't my world. These weren't my people. I'd done my tour, paid my blood price. But when I stood, her little fingers tightened on the ration bar like it was a lifeline. And when I turned to go, she didn't cry out. She didn't beg. She didn't move. But her eyes followed me, hollow and resigned, because she already knew what it meant when people left. That was what broke me. I exhaled hard, then turned back, crouched, and held out my hand. "Come on," I said gently. "You're not staying here." She didn't hesitate. Not even for a second. She crawled from her shelter and reached for my hand like she'd been waiting forever. Her skin was cold, colder than it should have been, and when her fingers wrapped around mine, they barely had strength. But she didn't let go. I lifted her into my arms. She weighed nothing, a bundle of bones and breath, and wrapped my jacket around her. She buried her face into my shoulder without a word. The trek back to my outpost shelter was silent. Every step I took felt heavier, not from her weight, but from something else. A responsibility I hadn't expected. A choice I couldn't undo. That night, I bathed her in warm water from my purifier tank. She didn't resist, just sat in the tub and let me clean the grime from her skin. I found scars on her back, old healed wrong. Her kind didn't scar easily. Someone had hurt her. Badly. I swallowed the rage that rose in my throat and kept scrubbing. She didn't speak, didn't flinch, just watched me with those massive, unblinking eyes. I wrapped her in a thermal blanket and gave her the rest of my food. She ate slowly, methodically, eyes flicking toward the door now and then, as if afraid someone would come and take it away. When I laid her down on my cot, she didn't resist. She simply curled up small and closed her eyes. I slept on the floor that night half awake,
every sound amplified. But nothing came. Morning broke cold and gray, like every other day in this cratered wasteland. But something had shifted. Sara woke before me, stood at the edge of the cot, holding my discarded jacket. She stared at me like she didn't know if she was allowed to speak. I sat up slowly. "You okay?" She nodded once. Then stepped forward, tugging at the sleeve of the jacket in her hands. "Yours," she said. I smiled. "It's okay. You can keep it." She clutched it close, then did something I didn't expect. She sat beside me, leaned her tiny shoulder against mine, and whispered in slow, deliberate Terran, "Thank you." That was the first time I heard her speak my language. The first time I realized how smart she was, how much she'd picked up just by listening. Over the next few days, we settled into a rhythm. She helped with minor tasks, learning fast. I showed her how to heat food, how to scrub gear, how to say basic words in both our tongues. She soaked it all in like a sponge desperate for knowledge. She never asked for anything. Never cried. Never complained. But at night, when the winds howled and the roof creaked, she would inch closer to my bedroll and grip my hand in her sleep. And I let her. Every time. The guilt gnawed at me. I wasn't her father. I wasn't even from her species. I had no right to bring her into my broken world. But she didn't care. She needed someone, and I was here. Word eventually reached me that humanitarian transports were being sent to the region. Relief crews, med ships, recovery agents. A few clicks east, and she could be processed, sent to a foster station, maybe reunited with surviving family. I told myself that was the plan. That she deserved better. But when I told her, when I explained that we were going to find her people, she shook her head. "No people," she said flatly. "Gone." My stomach turned. "What about your mother?" "Father." She looked at the floor. Fire. Screaming. Then quiet. "Only me." She wasn't guessing. She remembered it. Lived it. I felt the edges of my resolve crack. There are places that'll take care of you. Safe places. She looked up then, those impossibly large eyes boring into mine, and asked the question that changed everything. "You go too." I froze. "I know. They don't allow." Her lip trembled for the first time. "Don't leave." I tried to explain. Tried to find words that made it better. But then she reached for my hand, squeezed it tight, and whispered, "Will you be my father?" Just like that. No tears. No begging. Just a quiet, desperate plea from someone who had nothing else. And I, David Monroe, former infantry medic, drifter, loner, felt something inside me shatter. I pulled her close, held her tight, and whispered, "Yes. I will." She buried her face in my chest and didn't say another word. But I felt it, her small body relaxing for the first time. That night, I didn't sleep on the floor. I laid beside her, protective, present, hers. The war had taken everything from both of us, but in that tiny shelter, under a leaking roof and flickering light, something new had been born. A bond. A promise. A future. And I knew I would never leave her side again. The stars overhead shimmered faintly as the alien child clutched my jacket with her tiny hands, and I realized just how fragile she truly was. Her species, thin-boned and gentle-eyed, were known to perish quickly in these colder climates. But she had survived. Alone. Starving. Terrified. And yet, somehow, when I found her tucked behind the wreckage of that collapsed trading outpost, she hadn't run. She had reached out. Whispered those words I couldn't forget. "Will you be my dad?" Now, weeks later, she was curled up under a blanket in the corner of my shuttle, chewing carefully on a protein bar while the small heater whirred beside her. Her name was Luma. I hadn't named her. That had been the only thing she remembered clearly from before. The rest was a haze of fire, screaming, and the sharp crack of weapons I recognized too well from border skirmishes. Whoever had attacked her colony hadn't spared anyone. Not even the young. She hadn't spoken much since that first day, but when she did, it was always to ask if I was going somewhere, and if I'd be coming back. Each time, I promised yes. Each time, she looked relieved, but never quite convinced. It would take more than words. It would take time. I had taken a job on a remote farming moon, safe, quiet, plenty of food and no military activity. The settlers there were used to odd species. They minded their business. That was what we needed. Somewhere she could grow, and somewhere I could keep my promise. The first few days were an adjustment. The moment I stepped outside, even to gather supplies from the market stall, I'd find her pressed to the window, wide-eyed and trembling. The idea of being left again haunted her like a shadow. So I taught her how to use the comm system, a button she could press that would connect directly to me. She wore it like a necklace, fingers curled around it whenever I wasn't beside her. I hadn't expected how quickly I'd grow to care. How quickly she'd begin to shape my daily rhythm, how I cooked smaller meals so she'd have just enough without wasting, how I learned to read her expressions, soft and subtle beneath her dusky violet skin. Her language, too, came slowly, clicks and hums I practiced under my breath while I worked. She would giggle when I got a word wrong. That sound, it warmed the coldest parts of me. But nothing ever stays quiet. One day, a Federation cruiser touched down nearby. They were performing registry sweeps, checking papers, cargo manifests, crew rosters. I knew what they were really doing, looking for stowaways, contraband, orphaned aliens to relocate to government homes where no one asked too many questions. Places she might never leave. I kept Luma inside. Told her it was a game, hide and wait like we practiced. But I could see the fear in her eyes. She remembered. Somewhere deep, she remembered what men in armor had done to her people. I stood outside the homestead as the officers approached. Flashed my ID, kept my voice calm. They scanned the registry, asked if anyone else lived here. I lied, of course. Said I was alone. Said I liked it that way. One of them glanced toward the shuttle behind me. For a moment, I thought he would push past. But then the comms device clicked. Her voice crackled through it. "Are you coming back?" The officer's brow furrowed. Who was that? I didn't think. I moved between him and the door. My niece. She's autistic. Doesn't do well with strangers. They hesitated. Then nodded. Understood. No need to cause distress. Carry on. I watched them leave. Only when they were out of sight did I let myself breathe. Luma was huddled behind the door, eyes huge, the comm still clutched to her chest. I knelt beside her. "I'm back," I said. She reached for me. That night, she asked to sleep in my room. I made a little nest of pillows beside the bed and told her she could stay as long as she wanted. She curled up, her tiny body relaxing for the first time in hours. Before falling asleep, she whispered again, not the same question as before, but something different. "You won't give me away, right?" It broke something in me. Never. Time passed. Seasons shifted. She grew a little taller. Learned to read some human script, helped tend the hydroponic garden, even started making up stories in both our languages. I began writing her name into logs. Taking official steps. I didn't care what papers I had to forge, she was mine. Then one day, another message came. It was a battered drone, left near the market. No insignia. No sender. But the coordinates were encrypted in a way I recognized, old resistance coding. From the days when her people fought back. From the same days I had served as a translator on a peacekeeping crew. The message was simple. She lives. Attached was an image, grainy, taken from afar, but unmistakable. A woman of the same species as Luma, crouched near a refugee ship, arms wrapped around her knees. Her face etched with the same markings. Her eyes, the same shape. My pulse thundered. I didn't know what it meant. Could it be her mother? Had she survived? Had she sent this? I didn't show Luma. Not at first. I needed more. I traced the coordinates, a border station, now abandoned, but sometimes used by travelers avoiding Federation checkpoints. I chartered a supply run and said I needed to check the old transponders. What I found there shook me. The woman was real. Alive. Her name was Heya. She had survived the raid, but had been captured, sold, escaped again. Her wounds ran deep. She had been searching for her daughter ever since, following rumors of a human who had taken in a child that matched Luma's description. I didn't know who had sent the message. Maybe someone she had begged for help. But somehow, it had reached me. She wept when she saw the image I carried, of Luma curled beside the garden, smiling. I brought her home. Luma stood frozen in the doorway when she saw her. At first, she didn't move. Her lips parted, trembling. Then she whispered the name only I had ever heard her say in sleep. Mama. Heya crumpled. She sobbed as she held her daughter, repeating apologies over and over in their tongue. I stepped back. Let them have the space. I didn't know what this meant. Would she take Luma away? Would she leave? That night, after Luma fell asleep between us, Heya turned to me. Her voice was hoarse. You saved her. I shook my head. She saved me. Silence stretched. Then she asked softly, would it be all right if I stayed too? I looked at her, at the mother who had clawed through fire and war to find her child again. At the woman who now watched me not with suspicion, but something closer to hope.
"This is your home too," I said. She leaned into my shoulder.
I wrapped my arm around her. Outside, the stars shimmered again. But this time, they felt less cold.
Less distant. Home wasn't a place.
It was this, the quiet bond we had forged between broken hearts. And I would never leave them.
Not now. Not ever.
And you'll wait. As long as it takes.
Her breath hitched.
She turned, but not before he saw the tear she tried to hide. It wasn't love, not yet.
But it was the seed of it.
And in a world where people offered their bodies in desperation and silence, the smallest kindness could bloom into something stronger than survival.
She began walking taller. Laughing more.
Helping others in the shelter. The woman who once offered her life for scraps now comforted children and scolded unruly teens. And every evening, she found herself drifting toward the repair bay, just to be near him. "You never asked for anything," she said once, watching him solder a plate. "I didn't need to. But I want to give something back."
He looked up, surprised.
"Like what?"
She took a breath. Stepped closer. "My name. My trust.
And maybe, in time, more." He smiled, not with desire but with awe. "You've already given me everything."
She tilted her head. "How?"
"You let me see you. The real you. Not the broken girl in the market, but the woman who survived.
Who healed."
Tears welled again, but she didn't hide them this time. "You're still the only one who answered me. And I always will."